Hi students, this is the second part of Unit 3, so this is 3.2. We're going to be doing some work with mixed numbers here. So mixed numbers, you don't see mixed numbers much in algebra as you get into algebra, pre-algebra and algebra, but they are useful and we do use them. I can think of a couple good examples in your life. You'll use them certainly when you're cooking for measurements. You use them definitely when you're measuring other kind of things like lumber, yards of fabric, that kind of thing. So mixed numbers have their place, and we do need to know how to add and subtract mixed numbers. So I'm going to work 2 of these problems, and then you're going to work the rest for credit for this section. I'm going to work 1, I think, and I'm going to work 3, and I'm going to work them 2 ways because this is what I'm going to want you to do. You can decide which way you think is easier. I'm going to work them by changing to improper fractions, so I'm going to make just kind of a T-chart here. So let me start this one out by making these improper fractions. So that would be 7 times 5 is 35, plus 2 is 37, over 7, plus 43, over 6. I need a common denominator. I guess the lowest common denominator between those 2 would be 42. So I'm going to change these to 40 seconds. And I'm going to get, with the calculator, 222. 7 times 6 is 42, so 37 times 6 gives me that numerator. This one, 6 times 7 is 42, and I need to multiply 43 times 7, and I get 301. So when I put these back together, I can add them together now because I have a common denominator, and I get 523 over 42. And when I change this back into a mixed number, which I need to, because if I start with mixed numbers, your answer most likely will be asked for in mixed number format. And I get this, 12 and 19 40-seconds. So that's one way to do it. We'll put a big 1. The second way to do it is don't change it to improper fractions. Just work with the mixed number part. So I'm going to say 5. And instead of, I notice that the common denominator is 42, so I am going to make these 40 seconds. So 7 times 6, so 2 times 6. That gives me 12. And the 7, I'm going to change its fraction part to 40 seconds as well. 6 times 7, so 1 times 7. And there are my 2 new mixed numbers with the same denominator. Now I can just add my whole parts and get 12, and add my fractional parts and get 19 over 42. A little bit quicker, don't you think? And maybe less likely to make a mistake. But they are equal, and that's 2 different ways to work it. I'm going to do one more down here. I'm going to do this one. T-chart. First way is going to be improper fractions. 5 times 3 is 15 and 2 is 17. 5 times 2 is 10 and 1 is 11. Now I need a common denominator, which is going to be 15ths. 3 times 5, so 17 times 5. 5 times 3, so 11 times 3. Now you have a common denominator, subtract and get 52 over 15. And make it a mixed number, and it turns out to be 3 and 17/15. No, 7, not 17. Sorry. Okay, the whole number way, 5 2/3. I'm going to rewrite that as 15ths, so that's 5 and 10/15. 3 times 5, 2 times 5. And the second number, the second mixed number, 5 times 3, 1 times 3. Subtract the whole number pieces, 3. Subtract the fractional pieces, 10 minus 3 is 7. And your answers are the same. Now, that's what I'm going to ask you to do with the other 4 problems on this paper. I'm going to tell you one thing, though. This method of doing this guy right here does not work when you are subtracting and the number that you end up with is negative. This will not work. So you have to change it to an improper fraction. I'm not asking you to do any of that on this sheet, But as you study math with your classroom teachers, you probably will get into situations and those kinds of problems where you only have one method that will work for you. Thanks for listening, and you'll be ready to start completing the rest of these.